The Unwanted Bride. The evening sun dipped low over Silver Creek, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and gold. The smell of dust, fresh bread, and horse leather mingled in the air. Down at the Lee Bakery, the warm glow from the windows spilled across the dirt street, and inside, Martha Lee wiped flour from her round cheeks and stared out at the passers-by. The town was alive with laughter. A wedding had just taken place, the third one that year, and Martha had baked the cake. As always, she watched from behind the window while others danced and celebrated outside. Her hands were soft from dough but rough from years of work. She was 24, plump and plain, with chestnut hair that never seemed to behave and brown eyes that always seemed too kind for her own good. Men in town didn't look at Martha with desire. They looked past her, toward slimmer girls in bright dresses. Her father had passed 2 winters ago, leaving her the bakery and a pile of debts. The townsfolk pitied her, but pity didn't sell bread. She worked from dawn till dusk, her heart slowly hardening like yesterday's crusts. Yet deep down, she still dreamed of a home, of laughter at her table, of a man who might see her for more than her shape. That's when Cole Harris rode into town. He came on a big black horse, dust swirling behind him. Everyone knew Cole, the rancher of Red Rock Valley, a man whose land stretched farther than the eye could see. He was tall, sun-browned, and silent, the kind of man who didn't waste words. Rumor said he'd lost his wife 3 years ago and lived alone now, save for a few ranch hands and a loyal old dog. Martha noticed him the moment he stopped outside the bakery. He didn't come in for pie or coffee. He just looked through the window, his blue eyes unreadable. Then he tipped his hat slightly before turning away. That small gesture lit something inside her chest. The next morning, the town square buzzed with excitement. The harvest fair had begun. Stalls lined the streets, and music filled the air. Martha carried a basket of pies to sell, trying to ignore the whispers behind her. "Sweet girl, shame she's built like a wagon," one woman snickered. "Good cook, though," another said. "Maybe someone'll marry her stomach." Martha kept walking, cheeks burning. She placed her pies on the table, arranging them neatly. She didn't notice Cole Harris standing by the well, watching her with quiet curiosity. Hours passed. The fair grew louder, merrier, crueler. When the sun dipped lower, Martha's pies were still half unsold. People laughed and danced. She stood alone. Finally, she saw Cole again, walking past the crowd, his hat pulled low. Her heart pounded. Before she could stop herself, she called out, "Sir." "Mr. Harris." He turned slowly. His eyes were steady, calm as the open plains. Martha swallowed hard, gripping her apron. I know you don't know me well, but I can cook. I bake, I clean, and I don't complain much. Folks say no man marries a plump girl, sir." Her voice trembled. "But I can cook." The laughter nearby seemed to hush. A few people turned, snickering behind their hands. Cole's expression didn't change at first. Then, to everyone's surprise, he walked closer, until he was standing right in front of her table. "You think a man's stomach matters more than his heart, Miss Lee," he said quietly. She blinked, unsure how to answer. I just know what people say." Cole nodded once. "People say a lot of foolish things." He looked at her pies, then back at her face. "I've eaten 100 fancy meals that didn't fill me half as much as one honest one would." The crowd had gone silent. He picked up one of her pies, took a bite, and smiled faintly, the first smile anyone had seen from him in years. "You're wasted in this town," he said softly. "You've got skill and heart. My ranch could use both." Martha stared at him, wide-eyed. "You mean work for you?" "Work with me," he corrected. "I need a cook, someone dependable. Come out to Red Rock tomorrow at dawn. We'll see how you handle cowboy appetites." The laughter that had filled the fair was gone. Martha's hands trembled as she nodded. "Yes, sir. I'll be there." He tipped his hat again, eyes softening. "And Martha, don't ever say no one would marry you. You just haven't met the right fool yet." He walked away, leaving her frozen, her heart pounding so hard she thought the whole fair could hear it. That night, back at the bakery, Martha sat by the dying fire. She couldn't sleep. His words echoed in her mind. "You just haven't met the right fool yet." For the first time in years, she smiled to herself. Maybe tomorrow, she thought, life might finally start to change. The rancher's promise. The first light of dawn spilled across the hills of Red Rock Valley, washing the land in gold. The ranch stretched wide and wild, endless fences, lowing cattle, windmill blades creaking in the morning air. The scent of sage and horses filled the breeze. Martha had never seen so much land in her life. She clutched her small suitcase tight, her heart pounding as she stood before the sprawling ranch house. Its white paint was faded, the porch sagging, but it had strength, like the man who owned it. Cole Harris stepped out, already dressed for work. His hat shadowed his face, his shirt sleeves rolled up, and a coil of rope hung from his hand. He looked like he belonged to the land itself. "You came," he said simply. Martha nodded, breathless. "You asked me to." Cole gave a small smile. "Most folks don't listen to me the first time." He motioned toward the door. "Kitchen's yours. Feed 6 ranch hands by 7, and we'll call it a good start." She smiled nervously. "Yes, sir." The kitchen was dusty, half-empty, and cold. She rolled up her sleeves and got to work. Within minutes, the sound of clattering pans, chopping onions, and the smell of sizzling bacon filled the air. The old stove came alive under her hands, as if it had been waiting for her. By the time the ranch hands stumbled in, grumbling and sleepy, the table was loaded with eggs, biscuits, gravy, and strong black coffee. The men stared, then at each other, then at her. "Who's the new cook?" one asked. Cole answered simply, "Miss Lee." "Show some manners." When they tasted her food, silence fell. Then came murmurs of approval. "Best meal since my mama's kitchen," one cowboy muttered. Another nodded. "Ain't just good, it's real good." Cole said nothing, but he took his seat at the head of the table, tried a bite of her biscuits, and for the first time in years, finished every crumb. As the days turned into weeks, Martha became the quiet heartbeat of the ranch. She woke before dawn, cooked, cleaned, and sometimes even helped mend fences or tend the garden. The men respected her, not because Cole told them to, but because she'd earned it. Yet whispers followed her still. When she went to town for supplies, some of the women smirked. "Heard she's living at the Harris Ranch," one said slyly. "Desperate girl," another added. "Think she'll trap him?" Martha tried to ignore them, but each word cut deep. She told herself she was just a worker, nothing more. Yet at night, when the wind howled outside, she'd find herself thinking of Cole's eyes, of his rare, quiet smile. Cole, too, began to notice the change she'd brought. The house that had been cold and silent since his wife's death now smelled of fresh bread and coffee every morning. The sound of laughter, soft, nervous at first, sometimes drifted from the kitchen. Even his horse, Dusty, seemed calmer when Martha spoke to it. One evening, after a long day of rounding up cattle, Cole came home late. The lamps were still burning in the kitchen. Martha was there, kneading dough, her hair falling loose around her face. "You should have gone to bed," he said quietly. She smiled faintly. "I couldn't sleep. The dough's stubborn tonight." He leaned against the doorway, watching her hands move. "You work too hard." She looked down, her cheeks pink. "So do you." A silence settled between them, soft but heavy with unspoken things. "Martha," he said finally, "I haven't thanked you properly. The men talk about your cooking like it's gold. The ranch, it feels alive again." She looked up, eyes glistening. "You don't have to thank me, Mr. Harris. You gave me a chance when no one else would." He stepped closer, his boots creaking against the floorboards. "You earned it. I just saw what was already there." Her hands froze in the dough. The warmth of his voice made her heart tremble. "People talk, you know," she whispered. They think I'm here chasing a husband." Cole's jaw tightened. "Let them talk. Folks always need something to gossip about." She gave a sad smile. "It doesn't bother you?" He shook his head. "It used to, but not anymore." He hesitated, then added softly, "You can't build a life worrying about small minds, Martha. You build it with your own hands, the way you do everything." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "You really believe that?" "I do," he said. "And I believe you deserve more than you've ever been given." She turned away, pretending to check the oven, but her hands trembled. He saw it. That night, as she cleared the dishes, Cole lingered near the door. The moonlight framed him, and for a moment neither spoke. Then, in a voice low and rough, he said, "Martha, I didn't bring you here to be just a cook." She froze, breath-catching. "Then, why did you?" He took off his hat, running a hand through his hair. "Because you reminded me of something I thought I'd lost. Hope." Her eyes widened, shining with tears. He took a slow step forward. "You came into this house and brought life back into it. Into me." He paused, voice trembling for the first time. "You think a man like me cares about what folks call beautiful? I care about what's real, and you're as real as they come." A tear slipped down her cheek. "You don't mean that." "I do," he said firmly. "Martha Lee, I want you to stay, not as my cook, but as my wife." She covered her mouth, stunned. The girl no one wanted, the one laughed at for her size and quiet nature, was now being asked to stay by the man everyone admired. I don't know what to say," she whispered. He smiled softly. "Say yes. That's all." She laughed through her tears, trembling. "Yes, Cole. Yes." He reached for her hand, rough and warm, and held it tight. The kitchen, the night, the ranch itself seemed to breathe again. Outside, the wind carried the faint scent of rain. Inside, the lonely rancher and the plump baker stood close, hearts finally finding their place. That night, as Martha lay awake listening to the wind whistle through the valley, she thought of all the cruel words she'd endured. "No one marries a plump girl," they'd said. But they were wrong. Someone had, someone strong, kind, and brave enough to see her heart. And from that day on, Red Rock Ranch was never cold again.